You know that feeling when you walk into a crowded coffee shop and suddenly your brain feels like it's been plugged into too many outlets at once? The chatter, the espresso machine hissing, someone's laptop fan whirring, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and that one person having a very loud phone conversation about their dating life? And while everyone else seems perfectly fine, sipping their lattes, typing away, existing peacefully, you feel like your nervous system just got thrown into a blender. Here's what nobody talks about. This isn't weakness. This isn't you being too sensitive or unable to handle normal life. What you're experiencing is a very real phenomenon called sensory or mental overstimulation. And the reason modern life hits some brains harder than others has everything to do with how your nervous system is wired. Today, I want to give you a completely different lens for understanding why you might feel overwhelmed when others don't, what's actually happening in your brain when you're overstimulated, and most importantly, practical tools you can use right now to protect your mental bandwidth without isolating yourself from the world. Because you deserve to exist in modern spaces without feeling like you're constantly drowning in input. The reframe. Your brain isn't broken, it's differently calibrated. Let's start with the truth that changes everything. If you experience overstimulation more intensely than the people around you, your brain isn't malfunctioning, it's processing. Most people assume that everyone experiences the world roughly the same way, same loudness, same brightness, same emotional intensity. But neuroscience tells us something radically different. Our brains have wildly different sensitivity thresholds, and these differences are hardwired into our nervous systems. Think of it like this. Imagine everyone has a volume dial for incoming sensory information. For some people, that dial is set at a 4 or 5. The world comes in at a manageable level. Background noise stays in the background. Visual clutter doesn't overwhelm them. They can scroll social media, listen to a podcast, and cook dinner simultaneously without breaking a sweat. But for others, that dial is set at an 8 or 9. Everything comes in louder, brighter, more intense. What feels like mild background music to one person feels like a marching band to you. What looks like mild visual clutter to someone else feels like visual chaos that your brain desperately tries to organize. And here's the kicker. You can't just turn the dial down. This is your factory setting. The scientific term for this is sensory processing sensitivity, and it affects approximately 15 to 20% of the population. But even if you don't identify as a highly sensitive person, modern life is uniquely designed to push almost everyone past their threshold more than ever before in human history. Why? Because we didn't evolve for this. The mechanism, what overstimulation actually does to your brain. Let me take you inside your brain for a moment. Every single second, your brain is bombarded with roughly 11 million bits of sensory information. That's everything from the feel of your clothes against your skin, to the sound of distant traffic, to the light temperature in the room, to the smell of someone's lunch 3 desks over. Your conscious mind can only process about 40 to 50 bits per second, so your brain has to filter aggressively. This filtering happens in a part of your brain called the thalamus, which acts like a gatekeeper. It decides what gets through to your conscious awareness and what gets ignored as background noise. But for people with high sensory processing sensitivity, or those with ADHD, autism, anxiety disorders, or trauma histories, this gatekeeper is less selective. More information gets through. Your conscious brain is trying to process more input than it has bandwidth for. And this is where things get physiological. When your brain is overstimulated, your nervous system interprets this as a threat. Not a tiger chasing you threat, but in a something is wrong, we need to be on alert kind of threat. Your amygdala, your brain's alarm system, starts firing. Your sympathetic nervous system kicks in. Cortisol and adrenaline start flooding your system. Your body is literally in a low-grade stress response. This is why overstimulation doesn't just feel mentally exhausting, it feels physical. Your heart rate might increase, your muscles tense, you might feel irritable, foggy, or emotionally fragile. You might suddenly crave isolation or feel an overwhelming urge to escape. You're not being dramatic. Your body is trying to protect you from what it perceives as sensory danger. And modern life? Modern life is basically a nonstop sensory assault. Open plan offices, constant notifications, 24-hour news cycles, algorithmic feeds designed to grab your attention every 3 seconds, bright LED lights, packed public transportation, the expectation that you'll be reachable, productive, and socially engaged at all times. We're living in an environment our brains were never designed for, and some brains feel that mismatch more acutely than others. Tool 1. The sensory audit. Identify your specific triggers. Here's the first practical step. You need to know what specifically overwhelms you, because overstimulation isn't one size fits all. For some people, it's auditory, background conversations, traffic noise, music in stores. For others, it's visual, bright lights, cluttered spaces, too many tabs open on a screen. For others, it's social, too many people, too much eye contact, too much emotional input. Grab a piece of paper or open a note on your phone. For the next week, track your overstimulation moments. When you feel that rising sense of overwhelm, pause and ask, what sensory input was I exposed to in the last 30 minutes? Was it sound, light, movement, smell, social interaction? What environment was I in? How much sleep did I get last night? Sleep deprivation dramatically lowers your sensory threshold. You're looking for patterns. Maybe you realize that fluorescent lighting specifically drains you, or that you can handle one-on-one conversations beautifully, but group settings push you over the edge, or that you're fine in the morning, but by 3 p.m., even normal sounds feel abrasive. Once you know your triggers, you can start making micro adjustments before you hit crisis mode. Example, if visual clutter is your thing, you might close unnecessary browser tabs before they accumulate. If it's auditory, you might preemptively put in noise-canceling headphones before entering a busy space, not as a reaction, but as a preventative measure. You're not avoiding life, you're managing your sensory budget. Tool 2. The sensory reset routine. Discharge before you overload. Your nervous system is like a cup filling with water throughout the day. Every input, every conversation, every notification, every decision adds a little more liquid. If you never empty the cup, it overflows, and that overflow is overstimulation. The solution? Intentional sensory resets throughout your day. A sensory reset is any activity that gives your nervous system a break from processing new input and allows it to discharge accumulated tension. This isn't about distraction, it's about true nervous system regulation. Here are some options. Option 1. Bilateral stimulation. This is anything that alternates left-right input to your brain. Walking, tapping your knees alternately, listening to bilateral music, even moving your eyes side to side. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest mode, and helps your brain integrate information it's been holding. Option 2. Monotasking in silence. Choose one simple repetitive task. Fold laundry, wash dishes, organize a drawer. Do it in complete silence. No music, no podcast. Let your brain have nothing new to process. Option 3. Sensory deprivation. Lie down in a dark, quiet room. Close your eyes. Put in earplugs if needed. Set a timer for 10 minutes. Give your brain literal nothingness. Option 4. Grounding through texture. Hold something with a strong texture, a cold ice pack, a soft blanket, a smooth stone. Focus entirely on the physical sensation. This brings your awareness out of your overstimulated mind and into your body. The key is scheduling these resets before you're desperate. If you wait until you're completely fried, it takes much longer to recover. Think of it like charging your phone. You don't wait until it's at 1% and then panic. You charge it when it hits 20 or 30%. Same with your nervous system. Tool 3. Boundary setting as nervous system protection. This is where things get real, because one of the biggest sources of overstimulation isn't just the environment, it's the people and expectations in it. If you're someone who experiences the world more intensely, you probably also absorb other people's emotions more intensely. Someone else's stress becomes your stress. Someone else's excitement becomes overwhelming input. You're constantly regulating not just your own nervous system, but everyone else's around you. And that's exhausting. So you need boundaries, not as rudeness, as survival. Here's what this looks like practically. Example 1. Your friend wants to meet up, but you've had 3 social interactions already this week and you're running on empty. You say, I'd love to see you, but I'm pretty overstimulated this week. Can we do next week instead? Maybe somewhere quiet? You're not rejecting them. You're protecting your capacity to actually be present when you do connect. Example 2. You're in a meeting and someone asks you to take on another project. Your instinct is to say yes because you don't want to seem difficult. Instead, you say, let me check my bandwidth and get back to you tomorrow. You're buying yourself time to assess honestly whether you have the mental resources rather than defaulting to overcommitment. Example 3. You're at a party and you've hit your limit. You don't force yourself to stay until the acceptable time to leave. You say your goodbyes and go. You don't apologize. You don't over-explain. Boundaries are not walls, they're gates. You're deciding what comes in and when based on your actual capacity, not based on what you think you should be able to handle. The caveat: when overstimulation is a signal, not just sensitivity. Now, an important distinction: if you're experiencing chronic, debilitating overstimulation, where even minimal input feels unbearable, where you can't function in normal environments at all, where you're withdrawing from life entirely, that might be pointing to something that needs clinical support. Overstimulation can be a feature of ADHD, autism spectrum conditions, PTSD, generalized anxiety disorder, sensory processing disorder, or burnout. It can also be exacerbated by chronic stress, lack of sleep, poor nutrition, or untreated mental health conditions. If your overstimulation is interfering with your ability to work, maintain relationships, or take care of yourself, please talk to a therapist or psychiatrist. You're not failing, you might just need targeted support to help your nervous system recalibrate. The tools I've shared today are for managing normal variations in sensory sensitivity. They're not replacements for professional treatment when it's needed. The Pyschological reframe: you're not too much. The world is too loud. Here's what I want you to take with you. For too long, people who experience overstimulation have been told they're too sensitive, too fragile, too high maintenance, that they need to toughen up, get over it, learn to handle normal life. But what if normal life isn't actually normal? What if we've built a world that's fundamentally incompatible with how a significant portion of human brains are wired? What if your sensitivity isn't a flaw, but a feature? Because here's what else research shows. People with high sensory processing sensitivity tend to be more creative, more empathetic, more attuned to nuance and beauty. They notice things others miss. They process deeply. They care intensely. The same nervous system that makes a crowded mall feel overwhelming also allows you to appreciate a sunset more fully, to connect with people on a profound level, to create art that moves people, to notice when someone needs help before they ask. Your brain isn't broken. It's calibrated for depth, not speed, for quality, not quantity, for meaning, not noise. And yes, that means you need to protect your sensory boundaries more carefully than some other people. Yes, that means you might need to say no more often, leave parties earlier, choose quiet restaurants, schedule alone time like it's sacred. But that's not weakness. That's self-knowledge. That's wisdom. You're not too much. The world is too loud, and you have every right to turn down the volume. Closing: your next step. So here's what I want you to do. Pick one tool from today's video, just one. Maybe it's the sensory audit. Maybe it's scheduling a 10-minute reset into your afternoon. Maybe it's setting one boundary you've been avoiding. Start there, because small, consistent changes to how you manage your sensory environment add up to massive improvements in how you feel day to day. If this resonated with you, next week I'm diving into how to recover from burnout when you're a highly sensitive person, because the standard advice doesn't work for us, and I want to give you what actually does. Until then, be gentle with yourself, Honor your nervous system, and remember, needing quiet doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. I'll see you in the next one.